need to spend any time at all with this group on the historical facts of the culture we have been living in. I will say that most of us are not really aware that this culture is really only 6,000 years old, and humanity's been on the planet a whole lot longer than that. And it really is only affecting, and granted, more and more people, but it hasn't affected every other being on the planet. There still are cultures that recognize a fundamental truth, and that is that the Earth, this planet, is the source of every material thing that we are and have ever used and ever will use and will ever be in our physical form, period. We tend to forget that. We tend to think that somehow it just comes. We forget that the Earth is the source of all matter. And matter is an interesting word. Matter is the anglicized Germanic version of the Latin word mater, which is translated as mother. Matter, mater, matrix of the mother. Matrix. And so when we talk about the material world, we are talking about the mother. In the pantheon of the Latin and Greek divinities, it was understood at the innermost teachings that they were all aspects of one being that was in itself both masculine and feminine. And what the Greeks and the Romans did when they took over in their cultures, they'd say, oh, what's your name for the divine feminine? And what's your name for the divine masculine? Good, we'll give them a statue in the temple. And we'll take their statue and we'll put it in our temple and we'll add your name to our list. So we have Diana, who was in the Ephesus area. We have Demeter, which means mother of God, or godmother, who was in the Etruscan area. We have Minerva. We have all those other names, Venus, Aphrodite, and so on. All those names of the divine feminine, and that's all they are, is different names of the divine feminine. Some of you may recall there's a musician, Robert Gass, and he has come up with several variations of goddess songs. Isis Astarte Demeter, right? It actually goes Isis Astarte Diana, Hecate Demeter, Kali, Inanna, right? And it's just a few of the names, the many names across many cultures of this divine presence, the nurturing presence. You know, if you go in the dictionary, you get two definitions of mother. One is the biological body, and the other is the nurturing presence. And in that sense, we're all mothers. Whether we've ever had a child, whether we've ever been in a woman's body in this lifetime, whether we've ever given birth, not given birth, we are all nurturing presence. We are nurturing, at the very least, our immediate household, and the two-leggeds and four-leggeds and swimmers and flyers that are part of it. And some of us nurture gardens, and nurture the standing ones, yes. And we feel that connection, and we know that we are bringing a life force through us for the betterment of those around us. And some of us have always been mothers. I'm the great Earth Mother here. Have always been, ever since, since I was 7. Started taking care of other people's kids at 7. And others of us came into it rather late. Some of us discover our nurturing abilities when we're around 50. And we go, oh, really? My goodness. There is a way to express and explore and be that nurturing presence. Isn't that marvelous? The organizations that we're part of become mothers because they become, a way that we get nurtured and supported. And often we forget that, and we develop that same distress that often teenage girls have with their mothers. Now, psychologists understand it's a necessary stage in development for a young woman to individuate herself, to say, this is me, that's you. And of course, one day, about my age, you look in the mirror and you go, oh my goodness, thought I was different from you. And there you are, looking back at me. Oh my. So we come to terms with the fact that the mother is always in us. Always in us. And you know, sometimes when if we're involved in helping other children, whether they're our own or someone else, we'll hear our mother's voice, right? Like, ooh, I didn't mean to do that. Right? And sometimes we'll be in some difficult part of our life and we'll go, oh, I really need a mommy now, right? And sometimes we can actually pull out mommy presents and it feels really good. We're never, ever, ever separate from the mother. It just never happens. I have two daughters who have children, and I realized as I'm watching them with these children that they're bringing a quality of understanding that our generation did not have, and certainly our parents' generation didn't have. They understand and they honor and they respect these children in a way that is so far beyond anything I've ever seen in any of the previous generations. It's just fascinating. And I can't help but wonder what is going to be different for these kids as they're all very young now. What's going to be different as they get into adolescence? Are they going to need to break away as intensely as the last few generations have had to in this culture? Because you know, there are many cultures where there isn't that intense breakaway. There are other things that happen. In some cultures, when a young girl begins to approach menses, she's married off and it's the mother-in-law's problem. And so the relationship is with the mother-in-law rather than the birth mother in the development of the adult woman here and the householder. In some cultures, as she approaches menses, she's given an opportunity to go into a group situation with other girls where there is kind of a house mother who is other than any of their mothers. So again, the girls have an adult woman to relate to, but they don't have to try to do it with their birth mother. And they can begin to explore that relationship from outside of it, and they don't have to be angry to feel separated. What a nice thing, isn't it? Now, I've known a few girls to grow up in our culture without being angry at their mothers, and I think that's marvelous. And with the men, it's a little different in our culture. We encourage boys to idolize mom. And isn't that interesting? And often we encourage boys to idolize mom to the extent where they don't even recognize that the woman they're married to is also a mother and needs some support. And fortunately, that's not true of any of you guys, so we're safe. But it has been an issue in our culture, and that song that we sang before the service started is an example of that. That's a man singing to mom, and saying, you're everything that I ever wanted or needed. And, it's very hard for the woman who shows up in marriage to go, I'm here, I can do some of those things. And so in our culture, we've set up some strange tensions. We haven't acknowledged that really what we're talking about is nurturing presence. Unconditional acceptance and nurturing presence. And that is something that is a divine quality that may sometimes show up in a body, in a person. And if we're lucky, more often than not, will show up in a body, in a person. But this divine quality is present everywhere in all of us. And the secret is to tap into that. Now, I don't need to say too much about the shift the culture is going through. I do that everywhere else, so I won't do that here. But we are going through this huge shift right now. And the Dalai Lama has said that our success getting through this shift depends on women of the Western cultures. We are the people who will pull humanity through this time. Isn't that interesting? Now, why would he say such a thing? There's really two pieces to that puzzle that I've been able to find that might be useful here. Part of the practice of his particular school of Tibetan Buddhism is to spend hours and hours in deep meditation in front of two different images at different times. And one is the image of Buddha, the image of Buddha, to embody all the qualities of Buddha, to feel and know oneself to be one with the awakened one, to feel that awakening happening in us. And the other, usually the first thing in the morning, is with an image of Tara. Tara is a feminine being. Tara has many, many stories associated with her. And one of the stories is that she was a woman who chose to be a Buddhist monk at a time when only men were allowed to be monks. And she demonstrated all the qualities as a woman and broke through that particular glass ceiling. And another version of the story is ethnologically probably more accurate, and that is that before Buddhism was brought into Tibet, about 900, the story is that the king of Tibet had dreams that told him there were going to be these invaders from what we would call Islam today, coming in and destroying the land where Buddha had been born and had taught. And so his dreams were, you have to save Buddhism. And so he invited a great Buddhist teacher to come in and literally convert Tibet to Buddhism. And they developed a written language to be able to save the teachings. So that was all about 900 AD. And prior to that, Tibet was a shamanic culture. And the, quote, religion is called Bon, B-O-N, with an accent over the O. And it's a deeply shamanic, earth mother-oriented tradition that it got woven into Buddhism as it was brought into Tibet, which is why we say Tibetan Buddhism is different from any others. Well, Tara, the green Tara, was central to the Bon tradition. The white Tara is a variation on the green Tara that is associated with the Hindu tradition. She's the one that has the third eyes everywhere, feet, hands everywhere, because she is vision. Yeah, she is that unique spiritual vision. The red Tara is the Tara that is associated with the agricultural, it's Kali, basically. Red Tara and Kali are the same. And so she was already present as the reverse side of the green, okay? Complementary colors. Green Tara is peace. She is the abundant, unconditional, nurturing presence, the acceptance. And every morning, for some period of time, depending on the season, the Dalai Lama and his whole school of Tibetan monks and lamas meditate on Tara and feel all of her qualities in themselves. Now there is a chant, Om Tara Tu Sara Sore, right? Or Tu Re, or So Tara Tu Re, depending on who's talking. And the feeling is that there is a seed syllable in the heart of Tara. And if I can feel that syllable, if I can tap into that syllable, that becomes part of my heart and then expands through me. And this is what the Dalai Lama does every day. So in this wonderful, rich way, this man is attempting to honor the fact that all of us are the masculine and the feminine. That all of us are both the enlightened, awakened, totally connected with the infinite, empty fullness that is all that is in the abstraction. And totally connected with the full emptiness that is matter and earth, the mother, the feminine, in the concrete. We are both. So the Dalai Lama recognizes that, lives that, and understands that the world has been ignoring that. The world has been assuming, especially in Western culture, that everyone has to be a man. And so all of us who grew up in the last 50, 80 years, felt uncomfortable when we stayed home and took care of kids. We weren't being a man. So we took on jobs and career paths and whatever, and did that too. Western woman is the only woman in the last 6,000 years who has intentionally integrated the masculine and the feminine. And that is what the Dalai Lama is seeing. We need to honor both, okay? Now, what has happened with Western man is that 99% of them are out there very lost, and 1% is here. Just like you guys. You guys have all recognized that you need to honor both aspects in yourselves. And you honor both aspects in the world around you, and you honor them in us. Thank you very much. But you can see that there's a whole sea of guys out there who are really lost because they were taught they cannot, for their very survival's sake, allow the feminine in them. They can't allow it in them. And they can barely allow it around them. Fortunately, the baby boomers' children kind of know different. Partly because the moms had to be both male and female, the guys are being both male and female, and the girls are being both male and female more and more. So 40 and under is less loss than 50 and older. There's kind of a transitional decade in there, right? The Divine Mother is rising in each and every one of us, and in our children and in our grandchildren. Yeah? How many of you have kids who are intentionally giving your daughters trucks, their daughters trucks and tractors and such, right? And who are intentionally giving their sons baby dolls, and yeah. So that gender gap is less and less defined. I have a younger daughter who doesn't have any children and says she's not going to have one until she has a village to raise one. But her community is made up of people who, by and large, refuse to be identified by gender. By and large, refuse to say, I'm a man or I'm a woman. I get to choose how I'm going to show up in this moment. Wow. It's a little hard to check off those forms, isn't it? In fact, I have a friend who refuses to check off a form that requires that, and he's our generation. My, something is shifting. Now, we may not experience much of that in our generation. Isn't that weird? We're no longer the leading edge. But we'll get to see it, and we'll get to see the effects of it. Isn't that interesting? And part of why that is happening is because there is a hunger to honor both aspects. Carl Jung used to say that you were not a full human being until you had fully wedded in the sacred marriage the divine feminine and the divine masculine in yourself. Wow. Well, if I'm both and I'm both married, then I am neither male nor female. And didn't Jesus say that? In the kingdom of heaven, there is neither man nor woman. We are all both. And if you buy reincarnation, if that's an idea that you're willing to accept, oh my goodness, because we all been everything. You know, from the lowliest amoeba all the way through, you know, we've been kings and princes and queens and princesses and children, and you know, we've been sacrificed, and we've been the sacrificer, and we've done all those things. We have been in every possible form that any being can be to get to this place, this point, right now. So if you ever think that you don't know how to do something, just go, okay, in some past life I did this, whatever it is, because you did. And if you accept Jane Roberts' model, it's not a past life, it's another life. In some other life, in some point, somewhere in the universes of all that is, I have done this. I'm pulling that in here and now. Isn't that nice? Can you see how when we acknowledge that at some point, sometime, in all the universes of all that is, each and every one of us has been the incarnation of the divine, fully and completely, never knowing or feeling the least bit separate from the divine. We can pull that in now, too. We can feel the Divine Mother, the Divine Father, the divinity that is, the mind that is, always and everywhere present that appears to have been here before what we call the Big Bang, and looks like it's going to be here long after the big collapse. Whatever. We are that, and we can tap into that. It's a matter of allowing. So if you think back to your times with, your best times with your mother, or your grandmother, or maybe even your great-grandmother, a few of us were, you know, blessed to be able to be around her. Weren't there the times when it was about allowing rather than about controlling? Weren't there the times when it was about enjoying? Enjoy, that's a verb. Bring joy into. That's what enjoy means. Bring joy into. Allowing and enjoying. Those are the best times. And that is what the Divine Mother offers us as we go through this shift. Allowing the deepest part of ourselves to be fully expressed and enjoying the experience that emerges in that process. That is the gift of the rising of the Divine Mother. Can you accept it? I sure hope so. When I was thinking about my daughters and how they are raising their children, part of what I was aware of is these are some pretty strong, independent women. One's a medical doctor, and one's a doctor of political philosophy. Yeah, that was a blower, mind blower. And they both teach, they both practice, they both are raising their kids. Their husbands are very much their co-partners in this. It's beautiful to see. And I was thinking, wow, okay, they're pretty strong, independent women, and I'm called a pretty strong, independent woman, and my mom was definitely a strong, independent woman, and well, her mom was dean of a college, and her mom was a concert violinist who traveled around the world, and I guess they're part of a long lineage of strong, independent women. Bless them on that journey. And I started realizing every one of us is part of a lineage, of a tradition, a way of being mother, and a way of being father. And that combination, generations by generations. My daughter, one of my daughters has a chair that my grandmother remembers her grandfather rocking in. that my mother and I refinished while I was pregnant with that daughter. Wow. That sense of continuity back and back and back. Thousands of generations of people making choices to be fully present, to support this child in becoming who that child can be, in giving that child all that we know how to give them to have a full and satisfying life. Back and back and back generations. I don't have to do reincarnation to get in touch with that. Wow. And every one of us is bringing all those strands together into this moment here and now. And every one of us, male and female, is constantly giving birth to this world. Every one of us. We're giving birth to something new every instant. And it's the being that we are being in that moment that determines the shape of what we are giving birth to. And we are all letting go in every instant, in every moment, of everything that we were hanging on to allow this new being to come in, to be. You know, Mother's Day was created back after the Civil War. You know this history? Some of you maybe. Okay. A woman looked around at her during the Civil War and she went, you know, those guys did a lot, but these moms did a lot too. We need to honor them because they gave up their sons, and many of them continued to supply and support their sons while their sons were on the battlefield. And so she convinced Congress to honor the mothers. And Congress, in possibly an unconscious act, placed this holiday in the month of May, which is Mary's month, the Mother's month. This is the month in the ancient Celtic tradition where we honor the mother. This is Beltane, is all the goddesses and all the different stories coming into motherhood. The 1st of May was Beltane, 1st, 2nd of May, the midpoint between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. So, without actually stepping on Beltane, we have it the 2nd Sunday in May, the next weekend. It's kind of usually halfway between Easter and Pentecost in the Christian tradition, and usually halfway between Passover and Pentecost in the Hebrew tradition. And it's Mary's month, the Mother's month, the Divine Mother. Some of you recovering Catholics may recall placing the crown of hawthorn flowers on Mary's statue on May Day. It's one of the adopting and adapting the Catholic Church did, you know, honoring the mother, the month of the mother. Just a little historical tidbit there. That the ancient mother got woven in to what was an attempt to honor what was happening in the moment. I won't be speaking on Father's Day, but I'll make a few allusions to it when I do. Because there is something equally important that goes on at the end of June that is being honored in Father's Day. So Mother's Day, let's honor not just the mother that we grew up with, the mother that we may be, and we all are, the mothers that are coming up in the new generation. Let's honor this incredible lineage that we are all part of, and let's honor this incredible presence, allowing, enjoying, nurturing in the process. I'd like to take this the next step, and Sherry's offered to be willing and to help. So we're going to do a little bit of a chant, and you have some words there. We're going to introduce it and then invite you to sing it, and then there's one stretch where I want to ask you to try to sing it.